All right, Garrett Mitchell, the heavyweight championship belt is yours for right now. Fourth scrap of the year and a tough loss for your Rockford IceHogs. You lead the IceHogs in scraps this season, but I know what you were trying to do, trying to get some momentum back on your side. It just seemed like sometimes you were fighting yourself a little bit, a couple of scraps, but the momentum would turn around rather quickly. What didn't pay off for the IceHogs and ultimately the tough setback this afternoon?
Yeah, you know what? I think for us, it was just, we had parts of our game that we played well, and sometimes those don't go, that was, I guess, the message that, I try, Franny and the guys that have been around, try to, leave it with those guys is sometimes it doesn't always go your way, and I think that's the frustrating part about the game is, sometimes you can play well in spurts and, you have that, 30-second laps where, they're able to put one in and it's tough to recover. And, you're right. We had a couple scraps and, I thought for the most part, we played a pretty good game, and there's parts of that game, obviously that got away from us just a little bit and just enough for them to capitalize on it. I think we had some chances there, but, it's tough. It's, we're working through this whole thing, and I think it's been a great process. It's tough to say that after a loss, but I think if you look at the big picture of the whole thing, it's been a great process for a lot of these, younger guys.
I know that the season's starting to wind down, only 3 games remaining, all against Chicago, which you're very familiar with. You talk about the frustration for this group. How do you turn that, or not let that frustration turning into maybe letting these last 3 games kind of slide by the wayside and keeping a healthy compete level in that locker room?
Yeah, I think it's the same message that I kind of left the guys with tonight, and I kind of left it with them when we left Iowa. Obviously, not the result by any means that we wanted, but I think it comes down to whether you have a contract, you don't have a contract. If you're not willing to compete, like I said, if you have one, great, that's awesome. But if you're not willing to compete, there's also somebody else that's going to come in, and they'll always find a place to put you, whether you're on a deal or not. And that could be a PTO, or that could be a guy on an entry level contract or on an NHL deal. There's always a spot for guys to go. So I think that's what you play for at this point. And I think you could just say that that's what you play for this whole year. The younger guys coming in, it's to set yourself up for next year. Next year's a full year. That's a real year. And I think you saw parts of tonight where that's a real game. Those are, that's the emotion that's played with, whether it's come playoff time or, against those rivals that you play, 10, 12 times a year. That's what happens in a real year. So I think that's where you leave it with the guys, and, just that's what you're playing for right now. And I think that's where we started what we were playing for at the start of the season as well.
Well, the hunger is certainly there because jobs, as you know, Garrett, they're hard to come by, especially when a season like this, when not as many teams are participating, ECHL, NHL, it's tough. So, I mean, if that doesn't drive you, what will really?
Yeah. And then that's the biggest thing is, at the end of the day, your job is to come and play and, come and compete. And that's all we can ask for, as players, ask from one another. And that's all the coaching staff can ask from us is, show up and come play, come work, and, put forth your best effort. So, I think we've taken some huge strides from where we started this year, and it's an exciting thing for those younger guys to, get back into full buildings and play in front of 7, 8, 9,000 people. That's exciting. So I'm excited for the guys.
And then last one for me, Garrett, you got Chicago now, quick turnaround tomorrow, but then you're going to see them again in the final weekend of the season. What are you looking for a team that, the Wolves well? They're on a bit of a skid, but they've been leading the Central Division practically from day one. It'll be a good challenge starting tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think kind of like what I said here, the last question there, I think a lot of it is, you're going to play that team 12 times next year, and it's whether all 3 of those games go in our favor or all 3 go the other way. You're still playing against those same group of guys for the most part, next year. So, it's coming in, sending a message, letting them know that it's going to be a long 12 games or whatever it's going to be the following year. So, we know that they've got some top end talent and some top end skill, young guys that are coming into the league, and you know, they've got a good group of older guys over there too. So, you know, it's an exciting time for our guys to, you know, measure up. We've played them pretty solid for, you know, for the last couple of years. So we're excited. We're excited to see what we're going to do here.
Jay Taft, your line is active, sir.
Hey, Garrett, you talked about having talks with the guys in the locker room, and this is such a young team and such a weird kind of season and no playoffs. Has it been a little harder to keep everybody all in, or just not? It's not like anybody's going to cash it in at this point, but just to keep them all in and focused.
Yeah, you know, I think we've, you know, myself and Franny, and, you know, you got Anton Lindholm and you know, Q being around and having played, and you know, besides the four of us, you know, I guess you got Tomer's in, you know, 6th or 7th year pro, but, you know, besides the handful of guys there, you know, I think at one point this year, you guys could probably tell me better, but I think it was about 17 rookies. You know, I've never seen more than a handful. So you're right. You know, I think at that point we're kind of outnumbered. You know, Franny and I have talked about it a few times, just, you know, in a normal season, you know, you have 5 or 6 rookies, and maybe there's 2 or 3 on the back end and 2 or 3 up, you know, on the forward side of it. You know, and that makes it a lot more manageable for us to kind of work with those guys and work through things. You know, having 17, it makes it obviously a lot more difficult to try and, you know, I don't want to say teach guys, but just kind of teach them the ropes and, you know, kind of lead them through. Obviously this is a new season for all of us. You know, we've never been through something like this, but, you know, just through the pro game, and, you know, there's a huge adjustment period for those guys.
Do you feel like as a younger group that they've handled it well, or do you feel like you've lost some and you've had to bring them back? And
No, yeah, I mean, I think it's in a typical year, you know, you're going to have your guys that, I don't want to say stray away, but, you know, there's times where you have bumps in the road, and you're going to have guys that, you know, for us this year playing, you know, 30 some games, you know, that's about half of the year, just under half. You know, so it's tough to gauge, you know, the group right now on 30 games, but I think, you know, what I can tell you is from where we started, you know, coming in after Christmas here, the new year, I guess I should say, to this point right now, we've made some huge strides, and, you know, I think you look at our younger guys, they're starting to, you know, accept a bigger role and, you know, be willing to take those steps. And, you know, I think that's what's exciting for these guys is I don't think, you know, we haven't had to reel guys in at all. I think guys have been pretty responsive and, you know, willing to learn and willing to work for it.
perfect. Thanks, Garrett.
No problem.